Welcome, welcome. Let's ride
I noticed that one of the lights that I had thought was in the front might have landed a plane perhaps was not a plane because it stopped and then it went backwards. Not like a little oscillation, but I mean it stopped and went backwards. And then it moved in another way. And I said, guys, see that light there? That's not an airplane. And they looked at it and they totally agreed it was doing things an airplane would not do. And when we all focused upon it, all of a sudden, it turned and began to come straight across the field directly to us. And that's an airplane crash. It was sort of lurking above the treetops, which made it, and the size, that made it look to our eyes from where we were, like one of those airplanes. But it's coming. Things going on there. Have you actually visited California? No, it's one of those on my bucket list that I would like to get to. Unfortunately, I'm not funded by anybody to go and travel everywhere that I would like to. And trust me, there are plenty of places that I would really, really like to go. I got to one of them, northern Maine, just a couple of weeks ago. But North Carolina so far is not one that I've personally been there.
Okay, so let's talk about reports of Bigfoot because they have them here in Tennessee and pretty much everywhere. Is Bigfoot a creature that is believed to be one that can walk in and out of our reality, or do they stay in this 3D dimensional world we live in?
Well, that depends entirely on who you're talking to. Because there's sort of a great divide, and many people seem to be very, very adamant as to which of those things they believe. Some people really think that they are just obviously flesh and blood creatures, which makes a lot of sense because, if something's totally just some kind of a spirity type of thing, you wouldn't expect to find these very deep footprints. And everybody knows what the classic Bigfoot footprint looks like. You wouldn't have things necessarily throwing rocks. You wouldn't see the families with babies and smaller females and that sort of thing, which seems to be becoming more and more common. And they're eating, constantly. Most of what they do seems to be motivated by being able to be near fresh water or certain food reserves. They eat a lot of plants, according to witnesses, many more than I would have dreamed. Cattail. I've heard that they even eat the bark or inside bark, particularly of certain trees. So they're constantly trying to get enough calories to keep those massive bodies going. And you wouldn't think that if they were not full flesh and blood animals that they would have to spend so much time doing that. Now, on the other hand, they also do things that don't seem really, really appropriate for a completely flesh and blood animal. Many people, although there may be some earthly explanations for some of them. For instance, a lot of people who end up being close to one or experiencing several of them will report feeling some kind of tingling energy or some kind of strange, they'll get headaches or some other sort of reaction, and that may or may not be followed by what they take as kind of a semi-telepathic message. This happens with the dogmen too. People will get kind of it's not like telepathy as we think of it. They're not hearing messages in the King's English, but they'll get impressions or pictures, that sort of thing. And there are other instances where people have seen either a dogman or a Bigfoot running, and then all of a sudden they're just gone. It's like they're nowhere, as if they had never been there. Or we'll see the footprints, and this happened in those hayfields that I was assisting with. Footprints from something that landed in the center of a snow-covered field and head toward the woods, and then you don't see them anymore. How did they end up in the center of that field in the first place? Or vice versa, we had other ones that led outward into the field, went around in a circle, and then disappeared. So these other things happen that sort of muddy the waters, and then people start thinking, well, maybe they are at least part spirit. Now, I will tell you that most of the people, not every single one, most of the different Native American people that I've talked to from different areas in the country, and I've seen other researchers, that they believe that Bigfoot, and probably the dog man too in most cases, are some sort of creature that can go between worlds, as they put it, and that they originally come from what they call the spirit world. We might call it other dimensions, other worlds, other, who knows, what phrase we might have somebody end up using for it. But that they originate there, they come here, and when they are here, they can and often are, can be and often are fully corporeal. That is, they are flesh and blood. They need to eat protein. They need to rest sometimes. They do all the things that natural animals do. But when they are either near death or injured, or for whatever reason they don't want to be here, they know how to get back to that other place. Where they're not subject to what the Native Americans call in the spirit world. So I have to admit that if you look at all the reports in total that tell about both kinds of sightings, where they're just, eating, sleeping, defecating, doing all those things, or where they're seeming to have more unnatural activities, the Native American paradigm really fits best to all the reports. And because I started out as a reporter, I do attempt not to just form my own opinion and my own final answer and then tailor everything to meet that. I try to report what people report to me. And also, and I do read whatever other credible books on Bigfoot and strange creatures. There are many good authors working right now who are also investigating and making good records from eyewitnesses and that kind of thing. And you put them all together, and what I finally have come to think might be the answer is that perhaps what we call reality, like so many other spectra of things, for instance, the light spectrum is not just one type of light. It goes a full range from very, very dark to complete blinding, brilliant light. The color spectrum ranges through a whole different spectrum of colors, which are composed of different lengths of light waves. So perhaps what we call reality is also something that's on a sliding scale, not all complete flesh or blood. The various sorts of ghost reports that are reported by people, there are people who have encounters with things that seem like ghosts, but they'll be able to make footprints, or perhaps they're able to move an object. They can make or cause sound waves. They'll hear shrieks and moans and even sometimes words from them, that kind of thing. Now, if something was totally in another world or realm to the point where it could not be part of this one, it shouldn't be able to affect things in our world the way these things do. So, that's another thing I think about that sort of backs up this idea that we have a sliding scale of reality. We operate most of our lives on the very bottom end of the flesh and blood. Some people in this world have experiences that tend to also go into other realms. People who have second experiences, prophetic dreams. You look at the prophets in the Old and New Testaments of the Bible, you see the things that Jesus did, and you realize that these again are either flesh and blood people who can do other things, or they're not just trapped in one, or they're not totally spirit that are helpless to affect our world. I hope I'm putting that logically enough that you can follow it.
Now, have you seen any film or picture that you would say is a credible testament to Bigfoot?
Well, that's a tough one, because I see there are lots and lots of photos circulating the internet, and of course, we can go all the way back to the Patterson-Gimlin film many decades ago, which is still out there, and to my mind, still looks to me like the closest thing to January. But what I point out is that because for various various reasons, almost every picture ever taken, other than Patterson Gimlin and a few others, of Bigfoot or Dogman, will turn out too blurry for us to really make out what it is. And the thing I tell people is who may send me something like that is I don't mean to be discouraging, because you might have had the biggest, baddest Bigfoot standing in front of you that has ever been seen, and you were 20 feet away with your great camera, and it still may not turn out. And a lot of people think that perhaps it is because we have that sliding scale of reality, and they may just, even though they're here, remain, half a waypoint off from what we are, and from our cameras are set to record as extensions of our own eyes. We tune our eyes are operating on. So we get these fuzzy pictures, and it may be that the person perfectly well saw what they say they saw. It may be a picture of Bigfoot, but we don't have any way as yet to tell. It's like, I totally believe you saw what you said, and I totally believe that this could be this big bad Bigfoot, but it's not of the level that you can hold it up to the world and say, here is our final clear evidence of proof. And of course that's what everybody hopes that they have. It's just natural. You want to have the clear evidence and the proof and the final ta-da, here he is, world, and that would be the greatest thing ever. But so far, on that, because if that happened, everybody will agree, and it will all be known, and that just hasn't occurred yet, to my opinion.
Now, I live in Tennessee, and I saw that you wrote about the Tennessee mountain monster. I never heard that before. What part of Tennessee did these reports come from?
Yeah, this was 1978. This woman wrote to me, and she lived in an area of forested mountainside, and I think it was around McMinnville, if you know where that is.
Oh yes, I do. That's West Tennessee.
Yeah. So that was near where she lived, and this creature. Well, she was walking with her boyfriend and her friend and that friend's boyfriend through the woods, and it was a rough logging road, so it wasn't just like they were kind of strolling on the daisy path. They had a problem with their vehicle, and they ended up having to walk 2 miles home on foot. They'd been like on an ATV or something, and all of a sudden they heard, and if you've ever been out in the woods and it's quiet, and all of a sudden you hear this crash, 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 crash coming through the woods right toward you, that's not a comforting thing to hear. This thing panting and running, and the branches crashing, and thought at first it must be a coyote, but whatever it was, there and felt the wind rushing past them as it ran straight at them, and then between the group, and just kept staring, just kept running on as they just stared. Now this other one that happened to the same family, and this happened quite a bit in their yard, and they were building a gazebo, and they had scaffolding up to help hold it. And one night she said, and remember, they're on mountainsides, they're not on like some closely populated place. We had lots of forests, and they heard hollers, as they call them, screeches from down outside, and the dogs are going nuts, and they could find the next day evidence that something really big had been not just down on the mountainside, but in their yard. It left 3 different colors of long hair, dark brown, light brown, and black, caught in the scaffold over that gazebo. And she was able to go out and kind of trace where it went, and it's actually kind of hilarious. It sounds more like an old I Love Lucy episode, because the scaffolding was up against the gazebo roof, which was next to a koi pond. So she climbed up, excuse me, and she could see that there was an area where smaller hairs were jammed up into the rough wood against one of the boards they were using. Excuse me. And it showed the area of the head, something's head hit that board, was the long and the short of it. Excuse me, we have to take a drink of water. Whatever it was, the head was at least 6 inches wider than a human head. But then, whatever it was, dropped to the ground, jumped over that koi pond, picked all the flowers off of a flowering trumpet vine that she had there. Not only that, they had various construction materials lying around, and you know those kind of hollowed out cement blocks? They're sort of squarish, and then the inside of those cement blocks is hollow.
Yes, yes.
Well, they found one of those types of big cement blocks that something huge had used for a toilet, which, yes, it's what you think. And she actually, it wasn't that long, I think it was the same year that she contacted me, and I asked her if she actually had saved the contents of that cement thing. They just saved the whole cement block as it was. And I did check into, I checked with several university labs that might have been able to take DNA from it, but when they heard that it had been left in this concrete block that had been left in a shed in Tennessee for over a year, nobody would touch it, and I can't exactly blame them for it. But and she did send a couple of pictures of the hair. There wasn't anything enough to prove it. And one of the things, the big board that had the hunks of hair on it, they showed to one of the contractors and it disappeared. So they don't know if he told someone about it or, what happened there. But the evidence was either not usable or gone. But otherwise, that was pretty good evidence, I would say.
Yeah, Linda, I know you've heard a lot, but what's the most shocking account you've ever heard?
That one is pretty easy. Metamorphosing church lady.
Oh no, I must have missed that.
I'm not sure how you missed that one, but yeah. This was wild. Now it actually happened probably 10 or so years ago at least, maybe a little bit more. But the couple, again, never had anybody they felt like they could share it with. It was a middle-aged couple and their 2 children who saw this, plus a number of other people. And this was just south of Wisconsin in Illinois. I can't give the name of the town. And actually the church it occurred in is no longer there anyway. It was taken apart, made into part of something else, and doesn't exist, which you'll understand after you hear what happened. But it was just one of these small little conservative churches. They had pews that were set in there kind of informally, so they were in like a U shape. So if you were sitting in the front pew, you were looking almost directly across at the people sitting on the other side of the U-shaped arrangement there. And so one day this couple and their 2 teenage children were a little bit late. They ended up being in that front row, and this woman was sitting across from them on the other side of it. And so the other thing was, if you were in other parts of that arrangement, you would not have as great a look. There would be a lot of people just sort of incidentally blocking you, seeing what was going on in that very front pew. So they're sitting there, and this woman was someone who was new. They didn't really know her. They said she was just nondescript. They couldn't even remember what she looked like. Just sort of an average lady in average type clothing. And the sermon concluded. The minister had his Bible, and usually what happened next was he would step down from the pulpit, join his family, and then they would have like a worship and song phase. So, and the ushers were up there. So he's just getting ready to do that when this woman leaps to her feet, lets out this unearthly scream, which just sort of galvanized everyone in the room. Everybody heard that. And then the next thing they knew, she had completely transformed into what looked like a werewolf, a wolf-like creature. Her clothing was not visible anymore. She was covered with gray fur, just kind of growling and looking horrendous. And because the minister was standing right there with his Bible, he stuck his arm out with the Bible in his hand and rebuked this creature, whatever it was. And by the way, she didn't have paws or claws, she had hooves, which is, I find, also very chilling, and not something anybody would normally think of to make up. Well, the ushers who were up there were several of them, just kind of all fell on her and took her down onto the church pew, at which point she immediately became the woman, fully clothed again, and they just kind of dragged her out. I think she was just sort of exhausted, and they dragged her out of the church at that point. Just took her through one of the of the doors back up by the altar. And the couple said, they said people were kind of whispering about it. Did you see what was that? What was it? The thing was, it happened and was over so fast that if they were looking down at their hymnal, they probably didn't see it. Or if they weren't looking in the right direction, everybody heard the scream, but didn't all know what it was from. And that I just find the most chilling thing. And I'll tell you what, I interviewed that couple in person at least 3 different times and on the phone, corresponded with them, by email. I had a lot of contact with them. They were just the most normal, salt of the earth people. He was a Vietnam veteran. She had been, I think, a housewife. Just Mr. and Mrs. America with their children, the 2 children. Everything they told me, and just little incidentals checked out. And I spent quite a lot of time, just tracking down things they told me to see if it was everything down to, his Vietnamese service, to the U.S. Army, and all that kind of thing. Just everything checked out. I never found any reason to disbelieve. They did not want to be known. They just wanted it out there so that they wanted people to understand that there are what they call demonic creatures, things from somewhere else that are there, that can appear even in our own churches, but that they can be defeated if they're rebuked, in this case with the Bible. And they thought that was an important message for people to know.
That is something else.
Yeah.
Wow. And you talk to these people, so and you got the feeling about them being very, very sincere.
Yeah, they told the same exact story each time. He made me a really great drawing of it that's in the book, where you can really, look and see that he was seeing details. And like I said, not just once, 3 times I personally met in person with them. And one time I brought my husband, who's like the truth detector, along with me. And he's like, yeah, he said, straight up, they were straight up with you. He couldn't see that because he could just sit there and observe them while I'm talking and you're talking. So I trust his judgment a lot too. And yeah, they passed the husband lie detector test. So what more can I do?
And then a lot of people saw that, so there was many witnesses to that.
There were.
So what became of that lady? Where is she at now?
They don't know. She just she was there a little. She did come back for a little bit. And by the way, they did also have poltergeist things going on in the church. That the wife of this couple witnessed just a knife turning itself on edge in the kitchen, and just some weird stuff like that. But the lady went away somewhere, they don't know where, and the church sort of fell apart after that happened. They said they themselves moved away, and a lot of the members had been elderly, and they either were just kind of dying out or becoming too ill to attend services. And the church the building itself was just sort of absorbed into this other larger building and isn't there in the same way that it was. So it was kind of like that thing happened, and everything, even the pastor went somewhere else. It all just sort of tore the church apart, that particular little church. Not people's faith necessarily, not the church with a capital C, but that particular little congregation just sort of broke up and flew away in different directions.
That was probably hard to witness and to accept that really happened.
Right. And she said, the mom told me, she said, I tried to tell the kids that it was just, someone in a costume, and she said her daughter rolled her eyes at her and said, Mom, please, do you think I'm stupid? Because the kids knew what they saw. And there's no way any lady sitting there could have changed to a gray wolf suit instantaneously and changed back instantaneously if it were just, a person with a costume.
Right. I wonder why people do that. Why do they try to downplay the truth?
Well, because perhaps for them it is not their truth, and we all have our own mental construct of the world and our own beliefs about what it is, and that's really how we get through life. But we have what we believe, and when you find something that goes so hard up against what you normally believe, it's very hard to accept that. And if you're willing to accept the other people's view, in a way, you're tearing down your own construct, and it takes a lot of strength and so in your self-confidence, I think, to be able to do that, and not many of us can.
I agree. That was a great story. Thank you for sharing that. Now, I want to give you an opportunity to tell my listeners where they can find more information about you and your books.
Sure, and thank you very much for that. It's lindagodfrey.com. This is my blog. It's a WordPress blog, but you don't need the W's or anything. Just Linda Godfrey, GODFREY.com. That will take you to my blog, and that has other stories that are not in my books. Different things that happen. I've got a list of podcasts. If you have this archived and send me the link, I'll add it to that list. Just kind of an updated one. It's not every one I ever did, but I try to keep an ongoing list of people who want to hear me on podcasts in different times. You'll find a page about the creatures, and I'm actually adding that to that. I used to have one called thebeastofpreyroad.com, and that is getting transferred over that blog. So you'll find that there. Book lists. I have a page for my first fantasy novel, God Johnson, the Unforgiven Diary of a Lesser Disciple. And there's a Q&A page, all kinds of stuff. But really, I think what most people are interested in is reading these other incidents that happened, especially the ones that aren't in the book, or that sometimes I'll find out something about a past story that really ties things up, or is a cool addition to it. So I have things like that on there. People can comment, and also there is a form that you can fill out if you've had an event that you would like to share with me that I won't call you crazy, no matter what it is. If you would like to report something, there's a form you can use. It tells my email. If you want to just email me, that's great too. So just everything you want is at lindagodfrey.com.
All right. Linda, Linda, wonderful job. Continued success, and I hope to have you back here on Mysterious Radio.
Well, thank you so much. I would be very honored to come back anytime.
All right, that's going to do it for tonight's edition. I want to give a special thanks to Linda Godfrey again for joining me. I want to thank my producer tonight, Kim. I am your host, K-Town, and I will see you next time on Mysterious Radio.
Like the show? Get more Mysterious Radio on our website. And don't forget to visit our Twitter and Facebook page.
Want to avoid your furnace breaking down this winter, the best thing you can do is stay on top of your furnace's annual maintenance. If you do find yourself with a furnace blowing cold air, Any Hour Services technicians service all brands, and they can usually get to you pretty quick. Call Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. Whether you need maintenance, repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, technicians at Any Hour Services can help you keep your home comfortable all winter long. Call Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services. Any Hour Services can help with any size plumbing project around the house. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. Help with plumbing maintenance or plumbing repairs are closer than you think. Call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com. Any Hour Services can help with any size electrical project around the house. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule anyhourservices.com. Projects and repairs are closer to you. Call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Pictures of UFOs over Norway and Mexico by Charles Lear, and our blog headline, UFOs over Scottsdale, posted on April 15, 2024, reported a report of a blue one-light UFO captured on video over Scottsdale, Arizona. The main sources were two tabloid news agencies, Daily Mail and the U.S. Sun, and their source is video footage posted on Instagram and Twitter/X. The reporters of both agencies failed to provide a date for the incident, properly represent witnesses, and make mention of the fact that Scottsdale is home to a UFO museum/attraction called the UFO Experience. We came across another intriguing case this week, covered in the Mail and the Sun, UK edition, and this time the reporting is much more thorough and reveals a long-standing belief by locals that there is an underwater alien base in the area. In the Daily Mail article by Stacey Liberator, posted March 20, 2024, has the comprehensive headline, Oil Rigger.
This is where I'm stopping.